10 million. He's under contract for just under 10 million next season. So you're only saving about $10 million from this trade.
All right, your deal.
So for Philadelphia, I think Philadelphia has two options that they could do in terms of this year's trade deadline. They could either go out and trade players such as Mike Muscala, Wilson Chandler for players on expiring contracts that will help them out a little more this year, include some second-round picks. That's fine. That's one option. But I think the problem with this option is this. If you get Jimmy Butler to agree to what is probably either a near max or a max contract this summer, you're left with about $22, $23 million to spend on free agents. But if you're trying to re-sign JJ Redick, who probably will cost what, between 10 and 12 million, you think?
Well, I mean, he's also having his best season, so you can probably get money somewhere else.
Yeah, but I think if Philly's able to sign him to a 4-year deal, I think it could get him for about 10, 11 million. So that automatically takes that amount off from what the cap space you have available. Now you have cap space available maybe to sign one good player at 11 to 12 million dollars. So here's the route I would take if I was Philadelphia. I would take on salary for next year. I would trade away, and I have 4 trades. 4 trades that they can make. Not all of them will be big by any means. 4 trades they can make where to take on salary for next year, gain a lot of depth, and not to mention, because they take on salary, instead of having just a room exception available, which will probably be right around $5 million, they will have their I'm sorry, I'm blanking here. They will have their mid-level exception available, which is just over $9 million. Their non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is over $9 million, which you could get a much better player on that $9 million than you can on a player for $5 million. So I will throw these out to you real fast, and then all 4 of them, and then you tell me what you think of all 4 of them. I have Markelle Fultz in the first-round pick, Philly's first-round pick this year for T.J. Warren and Troy Daniels. I have T.J. McConnell and Justin Patton going to Orlando for D.J. Augustine. Then I have Wilson Chandler going to Charlotte for Marvin Williams. And my final trade that I have out there is Mike Muscala going to Atlanta for Dwayne Dedmon. Now, you're gaining 5 players here, all of them very legitimate three-point shooters. All of them would probably be good depth pieces. TJ Warren would probably be a starter for Philadelphia. The other 4 would be bench pieces, and they would gain a lot of depth in this trade and a lot of three-point shooting.
All these trades, they make all 5?
All 4 of them would be possible, yes. It'd be possible for them to make all 4 and gain a lot of depth.
The Chandler for Marvin Williams, again, I'm not a Marvin Williams fan. I know his stats show he's a decent player. The eye test doesn't show it.
And here's my argument to that, because I knew you. Obviously, that would be your point to this. In Charlotte, he's a starter, correct?
I believe so.
In Philly, he won't be a starter. In Philly, he'll be coming off the bench, giving you 15, 20 minutes. Definitely nothing as close to what he's given Charlotte. He's coming off giving you 15, 20 minutes. His advanced numbers show he's a good defensive player, and he could hit 3-pointers.
The only trade out of here that would really catch my attention was really that first one, where you get a TJ Warren. I do think the Phoenix would be taking on a little bit of a risk because Markelle Fultz hasn't done anything right now, hasn't done much. The Philadelphia 76ers pick isn't going to be very high, and you're giving up TJ Warren, who's a good player, who's a wing in the NBA, who can improve his 3-point shooting, but.
No, his 3-point shooting has been great this year.
Okay, well, or let's hope it stays consistent.
Yeah, and I've actually looked up his splits. It's been dropping, but he still stayed at a good percentage even throughout the months of December and January. So I think he's kind of plateauing to where – I'm sorry, I shouldn't say plateauing. I think he's
regressing to the mean.
Yeah, regressing to his mean, but it's a very much improved mean from last season to this season.
Well, I mean, I hope you would hope it stays consistent throughout his career, right? I mean, it's a little bit of an interesting because Markelle Fultz. I mean, the Phoenix needs a point guard, and Markelle Fultz would be a interesting point guard to be added to the team. Besides the shooting, he was still pretty good at everything else on the NBA court. So, maybe you take him on a new setting would be good for Fultz. the Augustine for
McConnell just
I
depends.
mean,
Depends on throwing for salary reasons.
again, I don't really see the point of it.
Okay,
I
so
like
Augustine.
McConnell's game.
Okay, I know you like McConnell's game, but Augustine is a better 3-point shooter. McConnell's probably a little bit of a better defender, but Augustine's a better 3-point shooter, and I would argue a better playmaker.
Yeah, but McConnell kind of brings something to the table that you won't see on the stat sheet, and I know that's a weird thing to say to analytics
Well,
people.
what do you think that is? I mean,
I'm just hard work ethic. I mean, just
yeah, but Augustine's the same way. I know what you. This is not a big trade. It's not, but I do think it's one that would help Philadelphia because it would help them spread the floor a little bit more than TJ McConnell does. And yeah, I think that essentially that. And with the other trade, I mean, Dedmon from Muscala, I think Dedmon's definitely an upgrade over Muscala. He could stretch the floor better than Muscala can, and he's a better defender than Muscala is.
all right. Let's move on. Number 6 are the Brooklyn Nets. I thought of one trade, and I don't know what you're going to think about this, but I'll make an argument for it. I would say Orlando Magic trade Jonathan Isaac for D'Angelo Russell. Now, before you say anything, I'm going to make an argument for this. If Orlando's in the running for winning this year, they would make this trade, of course, because D'Angelo Russell, he's playing at a pretty high level. And they needed a point guard, and I think it'd be a pretty decent fit here. You're giving up Jonathan Isaac, who is 2 years younger. He seems to be a pretty good modern day NBA player, but you're not. But what you're getting in return is also someone who's still young and who has potential to maybe in the East be an all-star. Now, the Brooklyn Nets do this for a few reasons. One, the biggest reason is probably because they can maintain their salary cap space because D'Angelo Russell is coming off his rookie contract and he's going to want more money. So you wouldn't have his cap hold on. You wouldn't have to match whatever offers are given him. And you would have Isaac locked up for the next 3 years. You're also taking a gamble on Isaac's potential here. Because Isaac can end up being a pretty good player in NBA, and he would, in my opinion, fit the Brooklyn Nets with his game and the way they want to be playing. The Nets also signed Spencer Dinwiddie, who is a second point guard coming off the bench, who has the potential of putting up numbers. So my argument here would be you give up D'Angelo Russell, you don't know. I mean, it seems like the Nets would match whatever offer is being put out there, but you don't know if the Nets necessarily want to do that. So you're also getting an asset in return for D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, I guess it's hard for me to gauge how I feel about this trade. D'Angelo Russell's been similar to Bradley Beal, been playing out of his mind the last couple of weeks, which bodes well for Brooklyn because I don't think they're willing to use him as a trade piece, but if they are, you could get some sound talent in return. So yes, a couple weeks ago, I probably would have said I don't like this trade for Orlando, but at this point, I might like this trade for Orlando. Plus, I think that it'd be very fun to watch again. I'm blanking. What's the center's name in Brooklyn?
Oh wow, young guy, right?
Yeah, we're both blanking here. I think it'd be fun.
I'm thinking of all their names. I can't think of hips. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be fun to pair him alongside Jonathan Isaac. I mean, similar to how Jonathan Isaac and Bamba are being paired together in Orlando. Orlando's really reliant on a lot of defense and long wingspans by pairing Bamba and Jonathan Isaac. So I think that's what they're going for there. And that may be the one reason why Orlando may balk on a trade like this is because they may want to really have Isaac and Bamba there to play alongside one another, but maybe not. And D'Angelo Russell, plus they might feel like they might be able to get D'Angelo Russell this summer even if they have to overpay for him. That might be the other reason why Orlando says no. But if they really want that security of making sure that D'Angelo Russell is definitively there, if everything goes right, I mean, obviously some other team could offer him a maximum contract, but even then, Orlando might match that. So I like it. It depends on which route both teams would be taken. I guess it depends on how risky Orlando wants to be and how Brooklyn really values D'Angelo Russell, because at this point he's definitely the more successful and talented player than Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah, and
so whether to give him, whether they're willing to give up on him, not even give up on him, but give him up for a Jonathan Isaac who has proven to be, who's proven he has a lot of potential, or is showing a lot of potential, but hasn't really shown. Granted, only in his second year, but hasn't shown that he's a star in the making just yet.
Okay, do you have any trades for Brooklyn?
No, Brooklyn, no. I'm sure they could, again, similarly, they could probably make a few small trades, but I think that they should, for the most part, be willing to stay the course, see what happens with their team, and go into the summer with the team that they have now. It's easy to propose a trade for a D'Angelo Russell, but I don't know if I want to do that. I think, especially because that they're going to more than likely keep him throughout the remainder of this year with the way he's been playing.
Okay, so Miami Heat are in 7th. I have no trades proposed for Miami.
Miami. Okay, so Miami is a team that could potentially pursue a Mike Conley or Marc Gasol. It seems like I don't know. Miami is one of the harder teams to gauge too, because yes, they're in the running for a playoff spot. I actually do believe they're a 7 or 8 seed there. They're a 7 seed in the playoffs. Justin Winslow has been playing very good. Josh Richardson has been playing good all year. I should say Justin Winslow's been playing good as of late. So I guess it depends on how much you're willing to give up. Are you willing to give up a first-round pick? Because if you want a Mike Conley, you probably have to give up at least a protected first-round pick to Memphis alongside Dragic and a Tyler Johnson who's just on a terrible contract. You're probably going to have to get willing to give up a first-round pick. Maybe a little less, not maybe, most likely a little less for Marc Gasol, but how much does Marc Gasol help you out? Plus, then you probably have Marc Gasol and Hassan Whiteside together. I don't know if that's a great pairing or not. I don't think it is. Some might argue for it. Some might argue against it. I don't think it'd be a good pairing there. So Kevin Love is another option, but I don't see Kevin Love being traded at this deadline simply because of his injury. So those are bigger names out there that they have. Another, if they're willing to go the other route and perhaps sell some of their players, I think if you combine a Wayne Ellington with a Rodney McGruder, you might be able to get a desperate team such as Detroit, for example, to give away their first round pick for those two players. Obviously, it'd probably have a lot of protections, but that is a possibility. So if that's an option, if that's a route you're willing to take, then fantastic. One more option I guess I'll throw out. They've been looking to trade Hassan Whiteside for a while. You could trade. This would actually help them for next year in terms of lowering their salary cap, but they'd probably have to throw in at least 1 second-round pick, and if not 2, is Hassan Whiteside to Cleveland for Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith. They would save money because of Smith's non-guaranteed contract for next year. Well, I should say partial guaranteed, but it's only guaranteed for just under $4 million. They'd save money, but for that reason, they'd have to throw in at least 1 second-round pick, and they don't have many of them. I believe the next one they could trade is in 2022. That and maybe a young player like Derek Jones, who does not have a lot of potential and at best will be a rotational piece in the NBA. I don't know if Cleveland will be one to bite at such an offer. I don't think they would be. But it is an option for them to propose.
All right. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Miami because I really don't care.
They're weird though. Aren't they one of those teams you just legitimately don't care about that much in the NBA?
Yeah, I just don't care.
Same for me. It's weird. Yeah.
Charlotte Hornets. I don't have any trades.
Charlotte Hornets. Okay, so again, another team they're another team that's hard to gauge because so are they trying to get better? Which they are. Yes. Marc Gasol is an option. Marc Gasol is probably their primary option in terms of players they could trade for if they want to get better. It shows Kemba Walker hey, we're doing something. We may not be doing as much as we'd like, but we're doing something. Kevin Love's another name that's been thrown around. Again, he's probably not going to get traded before the trade deadline. I think Cleveland's going to want to showcase him before they trade him, and that's not going to happen before the trade deadline. So Marc Gasol, if they're really trying to get that much better, Marc Gasol is probably their number one option. what they would have to give up, a Bismack Biyombo, and who knows